Got a submission here from ABLomas who said, need just some short advice, no need to do a video. But I actually think your problem is pretty interesting, so I kind of want to talk through it. I think there's interesting stuff to learn here. But, a video that's just, your P gain's a little high, your I gain's a little low. Yeah, that's fine and all, but it's the really unusual stuff that gives you opportunities to learn. So you said you have some oscillations, very slow oscillations, less than 1 hertz. And should you maybe lower your P term? Any oscillation that slow, it's not related to the P gain. That's my opinion. P gain oscillations are usually to be medium frequency, maybe 5 hertz or higher, 5 to 20 hertz maybe. I just pulled that number out of my butt, but 1 hertz or less, it's not the P term. It could be the I term. In theory, a high I term can cause slow oscillations. Although it's been a while, I was tuning an old version of Beta Flight. I might even have been Clean Flight, and I raised my I term to like all the way up to like 255. I was following the old philosophy of raise your I term until you get slow oscillations, then back it off, which is not the advice I would give anybody. Do not do that. You don't want your I term as high as possible and then back it off. You want your I term as high as it needs to be to do its job and no higher. That's my opinion again. But anyway, it's not the P term. I can tell you that. If it's 1 hertz oscillations, it's not the P term. So don't worry about that. Let's take a look. I've got your gyro and your RC command up here. And if we just go through your file, the first thing I see is right here. There's this big wobble on pitch. And you can see it's got nothing to do with what you're commanding in the sticks, right? So let's take a look then at your gyro plus PID pitch and see what was happening in that moment. And I think it's interesting. We can see that you're turning left. And then there's this moment, and it's very odd to me. Your I term zeroes out entirely. And that's odd to me because that looks like I know that Boris has added some functionality to Beta Flight where when the sticks are deflected past a certain point, the I term is zeroed out. And I think there used to be a fixed point where that would kick in, but then he added an adjustable point where that would kick in on your sticks. So it looks to me like you've hit the point in Beta Flight where the I term is zeroed out, which is intended to be for extreme stick deflections when you're doing acro moves like flips and rolls, which you're not doing here, because your sticks are hardly deflected at all. So it makes me wonder whether you configured your, I don't know, I mean, I think you probably haven't, but it makes me wonder whether you've done something to your configuration to activate that I term zeroing at a very low stick deflection, because I would never expect the I term to be zeroed out during normal conditions. I would expect it maybe to go low and waver around the axis, but it just gets absolutely zeroed out completely, and that's not something that would normally happen. That's something is zeroing that out. There's only one thing I know of that can do it, but it normally only activates during more extreme stick deflections, and so I can't really explain why this is happening. We can see though that the I term drops off and zeroes out, and we can see the gyro climbing. This is an uncommanded movement, so we see the P term moving to oppose the gyro. It's opposing because you didn't tell the copter to pitch, right? And we see the I term reducing itself also to oppose the movement. So the gyro is going up, the P and the I term both go down because that's an uncommanded movement, so they're trying to oppose it. And then we get this oscillation. And this is really weird to me because nothing about the flight condition you appear to be in seems to indicate that we should have some kind of a sudden destabilization of the gyro. So if we go back a ways, we can see the gyro just doing its thing. It's relatively close to the axis. The copter's moving forward and back a little bit. And then all of a sudden here, we start to get a pitch back movement, and you are pulling back on the stick slightly. We're pitching back. Here you return the stick, and you're still pitching back, and then suddenly the copter stops pitching back, it pitches forward, it pitches back, it kind of just, it becomes destabilized, and it's very unclear as to why. You haven't done anything different with the sticks. So it makes me think that this is an external condition that is doing something, and the PID loop is responding to it. Okay, so the fact that it's just out of nowhere, it's not like you were descending into prop wash. It's not like you were even doing anything particularly aggressive in terms of sharp turns and whatnot. Just you seem to just be doing a relatively gentle banking left turn, just from looking at what your sticks are doing. Your throttle is relatively moderate, and then you need to clap the gyro just flips out. So I don't know. Something external is happening to cause this, is my opinion. If we look at the motors, it gets really interesting. Here we can see the motors are doing their thing, but right here, notice that the two rear motors start to diverge, and the two front motors start to diverge, left to right. And we can see that the right side motors are higher, and the left side motors are lower, and that's because you're making a left turn. Okay. And then all of a sudden, this motor just zeroes out and then goes to maximum. And that is an effect of the PID loop trying to compensate for this gyro destabilization. And it's, yeah. So we got a little bit of a chicken and the egg here. Is there something wrong with a motor that resulted in the destabilization that then made the copter have to try to respond to it? Or did something happen to cause the gyro to move that the motors then responded to? And I feel like the answer to that is that something external happened to cause the gyro to move. Because we can, if the motor were failing, we would not see the motor's actions having any effect on the gyro. When a motor is failing, the motor just sort of goes to maximum and stays there, the PID loop or minimum, and stays there. The PID controller is saying, give me more thrust, and the motor is saying, well, I can't go any higher, it's not working, and then they just sort of stay in that condition. But here we see that when the motor zeroes out, the gyro swings around and comes back. And when the motor maxes out here, again, the gyro swings around and comes back. So the motor is having an effect. So something external destabilized the copter here. I don't know what it was, though. If we look forward in your trace, there's another interesting period. Right here is interesting. This is very interesting to me as well. So here, you're lowering the throttle, and as you lower the throttle, the front right motor goes to 0. Meanwhile, these two motors get some kind of a weird shark tooth type oscillation in them that makes no sense. Are you maybe in ground effect? Perhaps you're in ground effect. But I can't explain why these two motors are getting this wobble and the other two are not. That is a very, I don't know what this wobble is, but oh, I see. No, never mind. That's D-term kick. That's because you're inputting yaw. I see. You're inputting left yaw. Okay. So you input left yaw, and as you do, RC command steps, makes a stair step motion. Let me just add RC command here. And I'll just add your RC command yaw. You'll see what it is. So as the RC command makes stair steps, the two motors, because it's a yaw motion, the two diagonal motors kick. Okay, so that's nothing. That's nothing. Never mind. Again, I'm just looking at the pitch gyro, looking for more oscillations. Yeah. There's some slow oscillations, I guess. Yeah, it's hard to say. But I can tell you this. We don't see the oscillations in your I term. Notice that your I term is not really oscillating. So your I gain is not too high. Your P gain is definitely not too high. So my thinking is that whatever's causing this oscillation is something mechanical, something external that the PID controller is just having trouble compensating for. And, you know, you've got a 3-inch mini quad with overlapping props. So, well, you know, maybe that's it. I don't know, but I mean, you got a weird thing going on, and then you got a weird thing with your setup. So perhaps that's it. I don't know. But there you go. I can tell you what it's not. It's not that your P gain is too high. It's not that your I gain is too high. I'm pretty sure of that. It's possible that, so what should you do then? What do I recommend? I mean, it looks like you have a lot of room to raise your P gain. I don't see really any signs of oscillation on pitch. A little bit of surging here on roll. These waves here. That's okay. That's not a problem. So roll looks more active. Yeah, and here. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Well, yeah. So don't raise your roll P term, and maybe lower it a smidge, or maybe roll D might be too high. I don't know. But on pitch, it feels like you can raise P, and that may help. Okay. There you go. Hope that was helpful. Happy flying. Thanks for your submission.